In 2020, Spirit Airlines carried more of America's passengers by market share than United Airlines. Let that sink in. A budget carrier known for charging you to print a boarding pass briefly outranked one of the big three. That's the kind of year 2020 was for U.S. aviation. This is the story of U.S. airline market share from 2019 to 2025, 6 years that reshaped an entire industry. Here's where things stood in 2019, the last normal year. American Airlines led the pack with 215 million passengers and a 23% market share. Delta was close behind at 204 million. Southwest and United were virtually tied, both at 162 million, both claiming 16.7% of the market. Below them, Alaska and JetBlue were the clear mid-tier players. Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant, and Hawaiian rounded out the bottom. It looked stable, ordered, predictable, wouldn't stay that way for long. Then March 2020 arrived, and everything stopped. The numbers from 2020 are almost hard to read. American fell from 215 million passengers to just 95 million, a 56% drop. Delta's data disappeared entirely from public reporting. United shed 65% of its traffic. But here's the twist. The rankings reshuffled in a way nobody expected. Southwest jumped to number 2 with 67 million passengers. Spirit climbed to number 4. Frontier, Allegiant, carriers that normally never enter this conversation, suddenly had outsized shares simply because the big players collapsed faster. When the ocean drains, even small rocks look tall. Watch what happens as we animate from 2020 through 2022. In 2021, vaccines roll out and passengers start coming back. American recovers to 165 million. Southwest hits 123 million and holds second place. Spirit reaches 30 million, still punching at number 5 ahead of Alaska. But by 2022, the natural order reasserts itself. Delta storms back to number 2 with 177 million passengers. United climbs back to 144 million. Southwest drops to 3rd. Spirit falls back to 7th. The brief low-cost surge fades as the big carriers spin their engines back up. Alaska notably recovers steadily and quietly. No drama, no headlines, just consistent growth. But 2022 brought a different kind of turbulence. Not weather, not pandemic, a corporate power play. In 2022, JetBlue announced it would acquire Spirit Airlines for $3.8 billion. The idea was to create a fifth major carrier that could actually compete with the Big Four. Spirit shareholders approved it. JetBlue promised lower fares. Regulators looked at the combined 78 million passengers and said no. The DOJ sued, arguing the merger would reduce competition on overlapping routes. In January 2024, a federal judge sided with the government and blocked the deal. JetBlue walked away. And Spirit, which had bet its entire future on this merger going through, was left exposed. The carrier had deferred fleet investments, delayed restructuring, and now had nothing to show for 2 years of uncertainty. Now watch the final 3 years play out. 2023 is the year travel demand officially surpasses pre-pandemic levels for most carriers. American reaches 210 million passengers. Southwest hits 171 million. United climbs to 164 million. Spirit peaks at 44 million, its all-time high. Then 2024 arrives and you can see the cracks. JetBlue drops from a 40 to 40 million. Spirit flatlines at 44 million, holding on. But in 2025, Spirit collapses to 32 million passengers, falling from 6th to 8th in the rankings. JetBlue also slips. Meanwhile, Alaska Airlines, quiet, consistent Alaska, surges to 58 million passengers, its highest ever, holding firm at number 5. And United overtakes Southwest for the first time in the dataset, jumping to third place with 181 million passengers to Southwest's 168 million. Let's pause on Southwest for a second, because their trajectory tells its own story. In 2019, Southwest and United were neck and neck, 162.7 million versus 162.4 million. In 2020 and 2021, Southwest actually pulled ahead of United in absolute passengers. By 2025, United had grown to 181 million, while Southwest declined to 168 million. Southwest dropped from third place in 2024 to fourth in 2025. An airline that spent decades growing relentlessly, that survived 9/11, the financial crisis, every oil shock, is now losing ground to a legacy carrier it used to chase. And then there's Alaska. Nobody made a documentary about Alaska Airlines. Nobody wrote the breathless merger headlines. They just flew planes. Stepping back and looking at market share over time gives you a cleaner picture of who actually gained and who lost ground. Americans' share barely moved, 23.4% in 2019, 23.3% in 2025. Stable, dominant, almost boring. Delta and Southwest both compressed slightly. United grew from 17.7% to 18.9%. Alaska held steady near 5 to 6%. The real volatility was at the bottom of the chart. Spirit went from 3.8% in 2019 to 6.3% in 2020, that COVID distortion, and then traced a slow arc back down to 3.3% by 2025. JetBlue followed nearly the same curve. The pandemic gave ultra-low-cost carriers a moment. The recovery took it back. So what does 6 years of airline data actually tell us? It tells us that size is a shield. The biggest carriers took the hardest hits in 20, but they had the balance sheets and the route networks to come back. It tells us that a merger isn't a strategy. Spirit staked its future on a deal that regulators were always likely to scrutinize. And it tells us that the airlines that quietly grew their networks, improved their operations, and didn't bet everything on one headline, Alaska, United, are the ones standing tallest in 2025. American never lost its crown, not once, not even during the worst year in aviation history. That's either remarkable discipline or remarkable inertia. Probably a little of both. Thanks for watching. If you want to see this same analysis applied to European carriers or cargo airlines, let us know in the comments.